Hello everyone, I'm Charm de Guzman Samson. My topic is all about culture, language, and diversity. What is culture and language diversity? Cultural and linguistic diversity is generally understood as a person who identifies with a culture or religion that is not predominantly represented in Australian society or speak language other than English at home. Culture, language, and diversity. From the first sign, culture and language unify the community. However, there are signs of them otherwise within the same culture and language group. People of different age may have different belief and way of speaking. Younger people usually have different interests. They more eagerly adopt something new, including neologism and terms from abroad. Language and culture are connected. There is a close relationship between language and culture because it is impossible to understand a culture without language and backward. People who live in a certain area share their common set of beliefs, cultural values, and language, even if it is a minor dialect. The question of language and culture, their relations, and whether one of them appeared earlier are eternal. Linguistic around the world have many theories on how is language related to culture. Language and culture unify a certain group of people but also leave the space for creativity which creates a unique blend of characteristics for every citizen. The clash of cultures in the modern world, cultural enrichment, and globalization spread culture worldwide with a help of language. The mission of the PowerPoint as a translation service is to unite people by bridging them with the help of human cultural traits, behavior, ideas, and technologies that can be learned from other individuals can exhibit complex pattern of transmission and evolution. And researchers have developed theoretical models, both verbal and mathematical, to facilitate our understanding of these patterns. Many of the first quantitative models of cultural evolution were modified from existing concept in theoretical population genetics because cultural evolution has many parallels with as well as clear differences from genetic evolution. Furthermore, cultural and genetic evolution can interact with one another and influence both transmission and selection. This interaction requires theoretical treatments of gene culture, cumulation, and dual inheritance in addition to purely cultural evolution. In addition, cultural evolution theory is a natural component of study in demography, human ecology, and many other disciplines. Here we review the core concept in cultural evolutionary theory as they pertain to the extension of biology through culture, focusing on cultural evolutionary application in population genetics, ecology, and demography. For each these disciplines, we review the theoretical literature and highlight relevant empirical studies. We also discuss the societal implications of the study of culture, evolution, and the interaction of humans with one another and with their environment. Uh, the vocabulary of language provides us with a catalog of things considered important to the society and index to the way speakers categories experience, and often a record of past contacts and cultural borrowings. The grammar may reveal the way time segmented and organized belief about animacy and related power of beings in silent social categories in culture. Animacy is a grammatical and semantic feature existing in some language expressing how sentient or alive the referent of a noun is. Widely expressed animacy is one of the most elementary principles in language around the globe and is a distinction acquired as early as 6 months of age. The distinction between he, she, and other personal pronouns on one hand, in it on the other hand, is a distinction in animacy in English, and it mainly in the European language. The same can be said about distinction between who and what. Some language, such as Turkish, Geor- Georgian, spoken Finnish, and Italian, do not distinguish between s plus he and it. In Finnish, there is a distinction in animacy between han, he or she, and si, it, but in spoken Finnish, si can mean he, she. English show a similar lack of distinction between they animate and they and inanimate in the plural, but as shown above, it has such a distinction in the singular. There is another example of how animacy plays some role in English. For example, the higher animacy referent has, the less preferable it is used the preposition of for position that can also be interpreted in terms of alienable of inalienable profession. My face is correct while the face of mine would sounds very strained. The man's face and the face of the man are both correct, but the former is preferred. The clock's face and the face of the clock are both correct. Ames suggests a second types of linguistic reli- reliability, reliability which is in grammar evidence not only of static social categories but also of speakers' social assumption about the dynamics, the role, relationship, and about the rights and responsibilities are perceived in society. Edward Sapir and Benjamin Roof, Linguistic Reliability and Determinism, they dissect the nature along lines down the negative language. Um, the hypothesis of linguistic reliability, also known as the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. The Roof hypothesis or Ruffinism is a principle suggesting that the structure of a language influences its speakers' worldwide cognition, and thus people's perception are relative to their spoken language. Research has produce passive empirical evidence supporting linguistic reliability. Second, in this hypothesis is provisionally accepted by many modern linguistics. Third, many different, often contradictory variations of the hypothesis have existed throughout its history. For the strong hypothesis of linguistic reliability, now referred to as linguistic determinism, say that language determines truth and that linguistic categories limit and determine cognitive category. This hypothesis was held by some of the early linguistics before the World War. This version is generally agreed to be false by modern linguistics, although common the term Sapir-Whorf hypothesis is considered a misnomer by linguists for several reasons. Edward Sapir and Benjamin Lee Roth never co-authored any works and never state their ideas in terms of hypothesis. The distinction between a weak and a strong version of this hypothesis is also a later development. Sapir and Roth never set up as a dichotomy, although often their writings and their views of this reliability principle are praised in stronger or weaker terms. The principle of linguistic relativity and the relationship between language and truth has also received attention in varying academic fields, from philosophy to psychology and anthropology, and it has also inspired colored works of fiction and the invention of constructed language. Focus question. What is diversity in culture, language, and communication? Cultural diversity doesn't just entail differences in dress and language. It also encompasses different ways of thinking, managing, and communication. The relationship between communication and culture is a very complex and intimate one. Second, how does language affect cultural diversity? Language plays a very crucial role in preserving and celebrating cultural diversity. Third, why is it important to understand the relationship between language and culture? The knowledge of other language facilitates knowledge of the other countries and the specific culture of each one. Thank you so much.